Hey everyone, History Mystery Man here, coming to you today from my hometown in Toledo, Ohio, with one of, if not the greatest football stories in American history, the Chuck Ealey Story. An African-American young man from the projects of Portsmouth, Ohio. No father checked out early on, but a very loving mother who taught him all the right things. High school, undefeated as a quarterback. And now it's time to move off to the NCAA and play college football. There were several colleges that looked at him, the Ohio University, Miami of Ohio, and others, but nobody wanted to take a chance on Chuck Ealey. Finally, Coach Latimer from the University of Toledo said, hey, we'll take a look at this guy, bring him on. They liked what they saw. Long story short, they signed him for a full contract. That was the only way Chuck Ealey, a poor kid from Portsmouth, could go to school. Now we're at the University of Toledo. 3 years, 1969 through 1971, Chuck Ealey goes undefeated as a college quarterback at the University of Toledo. The Rockets went 35-0 through those 3 years, 69 through 71. Every game, every bowl game, everything. Amazing. Well, here comes the NFL draft. 17 rounds, 442 draft picks, and not a single one for Chuck Ealey. He handled it with great dignity in class. He didn't jump up and down in the press and cry foul. He just stood up and said, you know, if the NFL doesn't want me, that's okay. I'll go make a life for my family somewhere else. I got what I came to the university for. I have my diploma. That's what I came for, was his focus. And he walked away a proud man. In fact, two things at play here. The NFL at that time wasn't about to have a black quarterback. And there was a second thing. There was a letter that was distributed among all 26 teams of the NFL stating that Ealey desired only to come into the league as a quarterback. Now, it's worth noting he had an agent at the time that suggested to him that this could prevent him from getting into the NFL. But Ealey said, no, I'm coming in as a quarterback. And there were teams that were thinking about Chuck Ealey, but not as a QB, possibly a safety or some other position, but that wasn't acceptable to him. If he was going to the NFL, Ealey said, I'm going in as a quarterback. That's courage. That's integrity. Chuck Ealey was a quarterback and one of the greatest to ever play the game, 35-0. No other human on planet Earth has equaled that mark 50 years later. He is still the only human in collegiate football history to go undefeated as a quarterback. So the NFL didn't want him. So the Canadian Football League, way ahead of it, said, hey, we'll take you. And he went off to play in the Canadian Football League. And of course, he still lives there today in Toronto, Canada. But his first year in the Canadian Football League, he took his team as starting quarterback to the Grey Cup, their version of the Super Bowl, and won. Just a fascinating story. This man is incredible. And I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to catch up with Chuck Ealey just last week. And here's what the great Chuck Ealey had to say.
This has been good because of what we've been able to stand up for so long and in time. It means a lot because the guys that you grew close to at 20 and 21 years old, those of us who are still around, appreciate the longevity of that standing as a record.
Do you think this record will ever fall?
I don't know. I mean, you know, it can't fall for me because in a sense you can't lose anymore. you went all the way, and it's very hard. That's very hard now. The competition is so tough. The health issues are so big that it's a very tough thing to do. And I think, you know, Clemson had a chance in the last couple of years, got close, and that was it. They couldn't finish it off that number that way. So I think that it's here to stay for a while.
I'm sure you get asked this a million times, but what does this mean to you to have this kind of record personally?
Well, it's more not about the record, because never did I ever play about a record. It just fell in place. You know, if it was something I would say, oh, I'm going to make sure I get 35-0, and then, you know, get it. It's a different thing. But that was not the target. The target was to take each game one at a time. Now, when it was over, I said to one of my teammates, I don't think we know what we've really done here. And that was honestly how I felt, because it was something none of us had ever experienced, and that's where we took it one day at a time, one game at a time. And honestly, that's the way I felt.
Why on earth are you not in the College Football Hall of Fame? I mean, how does that not happen? I don't get it.
I don't get it either. But
okay.
The only thing I could say for them to the time frame of where we are, I almost want to thank them at times. And I said, somebody asked me, why do you want to thank them? I said, because if they'd have put me in 40 years ago, I would be buried. The story would be gone.
Sure.
And now every year or every other year, they're bringing up and saying, why have you missed this opportunity to put somebody in there that has the record? And so I just, I live with it. I mean, it was never a dream to go do that, and to go into the Hall of Fame. That was really not a thought. But when it happened, the way it's happened, we now could be on our own and go from there. So I'm okay. I'm good with it.
But when you were playing that 69 through 71 season, that was a really heady time in America. Civil rights, Vietnam, Bobby Kennedy, Dr. Martin Luther King had just been assassinated. Did you feel like you were carrying part of the load as a young Black American in that era?
I never felt like I was carrying the load. I understood the period of time and society that we were in. So I wasn't there with any other mission but to play football and to play quarterback and do what we did. And so I wasn't there to bring on a savior of the process of there and think of that way. So I enjoyed the game and played the game, and that was what it was all about.
I got you. I don't want to hold you up here. I know you got to get in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you
It's nice to see you.
Yeah.
I'm keeping this.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hey, go Rockets.
The 69 through 71 team. We have a question where we said, who was the only undefeated quarterback in Toledo history from 1969 to 1971. So you're part of our war specifically.
Well, thank you. Okay, so keep it going. Thank you for coming out.
Oh, how about that? Wow, that's a classic. That's an original.
Yeah, from the blade.
Oh, 69, 70, 71. Yeah, that's a showpiece there.
Yeah, now they're getting signed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, we have the Chuck Ealey Foundation and Undefeated Spirit about developing an undefeated spirit with the young kids so that they understand the value that they have, and no matter what the circumstances be. Personally, I can sort of tell that story because I lived that story, and to share that story and the other things that happen with that is what we're trying to do to make sure that we support young people in a way as they're going through the different changes of life that becomes very important.
When you were playing, did you ever think that you'd be so ingrained in Toledo history?
Yeah, I really did. No, I had no idea about what happened. It's like everything else. It's like one day at a time, one play at a time, 1 year at a time. All of those little cliches and things you want to say, but the reality is no. You never think about it. I came to school just to make sure I got a scholarship and get my education, and build my family and my world around that. And the things fell in place because I was a bunch of young men like me trying to read the same message, and we sort of clicked together and created what we created. No, thank you very much. I want to thank the people in Toledo and the University of Toledo and my teammates for a great ride.
Tom Duncan, you played for the 35-0 team, did you not? You played with Chuck Ealey?
Yeah, I played 2 of the 3 years.
Wow. Tell me about that.
Well, first of all, the Chuck's, stardom and what he accomplished, we didn't know it. I mean, it wasn't like he came in on a parade and say, here's Chuck Ealey. He earned his spot, and he kept getting better every week, and he became a great leader, and that inspired all the other guys on the teams. And I mentioned earlier today, he was a captain, but he also had 65 other captains he created because of leadership, or I should say leaders, but not captains. But a fantastic guy on the field, off the field, and the always thing I say, he was a good quarterback. He threw the ball well, ran the ball, but he made big plays, and that was telling. Oh, absolutely. Well, he started with great dignity, but we didn't know who he was, and it kept getting better and better. But you know, he didn't walk away pouting about the NFL. But he said, "I'm not a wide receiver. I'm not a defensive back." They wanted to put him there. Canada gave him a shot. If the NFL would have given him a shot, I think he would have been successful as well.
Oh, absolutely. But what a source of pride for Toledo. I mean, I want more people to know about Chuck Ealey.
Well, I do too, because 35-0 doesn't happen very often. It may never happen again. I mean,
It's only happened once.
Oklahoma has 47 games. That's unreachable. But 35-0, it's really be tough the way football is structured today.
Yeah. How cool. You got to play with Chuck Ealey. That's awesome.
Well, I played defense, and
That's all right.
He was a big, we supported him 100% because, we wanted to get field position for him. And it was just amazing how the team gelled together and was really, everybody respected one another, and that's a big part of the old Woody Hayes, win with people. That's exactly what happened at UT.
And since you did play defense, we should point out that part of Ealey's success was that the defense was so good. Were you guys not ranked like 13 in the nation?
Ranked number one a couple of years
Wow.
in total defense.
That didn't hurt.
So we gave, So we had to dig out some bad field position, but also gave him some great field position. But yeah, it's all a team effort. And yeah, we were just pleased with the whole thing. And as the days go on, and you think 35-0, that's amazing. But we're very proud.
Yeah, I'll bet. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
So we know you're from the projects in Portsmouth, Ohio. I read the book your daughter wrote, The Stone Thrower.
Right.
The reference, stone thrower, what does that mean? Was it really throwing stones through trains?
Well, she used that as an analogy because I did throw stones at trains to get when I was in 13, 14, 15 years old, to get the avenue of throwing a pass at the moving trains. Trains would come through our part of town really slow, then pick up speed, so it gave me a gauge of distance and target, and that's how I used it.
Did it really help train you for what would come later?
Oh yeah, I mean it helped me get a timing. If you stand back 15, 20 yards from a train that's going by, at 10
timing,
miles an hour, then 15, and then you get back distance, and so I used it more so as a tool because there's nobody to practice at certain parts of the day, or it was no game. So I used it as just projecting where a person would be if I was throwing a pass.
I got it. So you went 27-0 in high school. It was undefeated.
It was undefeated.
Kind of like the shirt. Yeah. So it's time for college. Miami of Ohio didn't want you under a full contract, nor did OU. But Frank Lauterbur, the head coach for the University of Toledo Rockets, sent someone down to your final basketball game to check you out. What do you remember from that day? Did you know someone was there checking you out?
I knew there was somebody who was there, was come to talk to me and Jim Goodman, who was one of the guys that went with me to Toledo. But at the same time, I didn't know he was in the stands watching the basketball game that we were playing that night. So he was there, and he watched the basketball game. He didn't see any film of me football, but they recruited me because of my game I had. I scored 30 points and shot in the winning basket, and they thought to bring me to Toledo.
35-0 in college, and amazing, and a mark that's unmatched yet today, 50 years later. It's incomprehensible to me that the NFL would not take you. Was it about being a black man in that era, or was it about a letter you wrote to the NFL saying you didn't want to come in anything other than a quarterback? Was it everything?
They're one and the same.
Yeah.
Both in the concept of understanding at the time they didn't draft African American quarterbacks.
Sure.
In the NFL, it was just a position, and it wasn't me trying to be a smartass or anything like that. It was more of me sort of saying I came to school to get my education. And if I play professional football, great. If I don't, that's okay too. But at the same time, I did not want to be put into another position that I didn't play while I was in university.
Understand completely. Toledo, is that kind of like a second city for you, your second home? I mean, you'll always have a
It's actually kind
connection
of, the second home. There's a home of birth. There's a home that you grew up and you experience, and then there's a home you live in now in Canada, where all my kids were born, and my grandkids are there. So I got like 3 different kind of sections of homes that you live in.
I hope someone writes the script for the Chuck Ealey story. It would be a really awesome major motion picture.
That would be great. Because, I mean, there's a story there that a lot of people don't even know. But I don't say that because I expect somebody to write a movie,
No.
Between the DVDs and stuff. But if I was somebody else and know what I know about this story, it would be a great story.
Yeah, oh, it absolutely is. You are one of the most, I think, the most incredible story in football history, college or NFL, and I thank you so much for your time today. I so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
She's really. His last book, I'm not a novel guy. Man, this was just something else in the book.
Is it really? I'll
Oh, yeah.
have to get that.
You know what it was? You know the name of it?
No.
It's called The Gutter Child.
Is your high school football coach still alive?
Yes, he's struggling, but he's alive.
Mr. Miller, was it? Or?
Yes.
Wow.
Ed Miller.
Ed Miller, yep.
You're going to be able to make a movie before the day's over here.
I'm gonna make a movie. You kidding? Yeah. Proceeds to come up with something.
Yeah. How about Chuck Ealey Foundation?
Yeah, good choice. Good choice. Do you ever hear from any of your high school classmates?
Actually, one's coming up for the thing because he played on the team with us.
I got you.
And I was down a couple of years ago at a reunion, one of those 50 reunion things.
Does Portsmouth give you the welcome that Toledo does?
Yes and no, because I have not been back a lot myself. But when
Sure.
I started sending information back by email and texting and Facebooking information, they were all shocked. The things, giving the commencement at the university and being called a doctor. That blew them away.
Anyway, Chuck, sounds good. Hey,
Hey,
thanks.
thank
Good
you.
seeing you. All right. Take care.
I'm sorry to keep bothering you.
It's not a bother, guys. You guys do a great job. You get as much as you want.
Okay, could you write two moms from Chuck Ealey stuff?
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry.
I mean, to me, your husband is an icon. I think he touched a lot of people, certainly in this town, and his story is remarkable. I think it's the most fascinating football story in America, and I hope that we tell it one day on the big screen. How do you see it, his career?
It was just something they were doing at the time. Like, it was just, they were playing football.
Sure.
They were playing football and having a good time and accomplished something that I don't think any of them were conscious of when they were doing it. Looking back, it was like, oh, wow, this is what happened. But I think for him, coming from Portsmouth, he came here to get his education. He needed the scholarship in order to do that. But then he made the best of the situation coming in. He won all in high school, all his games in high school, but he was a good athlete and he was a good quarterback. Like, he prepared for that. He worked at it. And so coming here, it was what he was going to do. Like, he was going to be quarterback and whatever it took.
And he should have been one in the NFL, but he didn't get that opportunity. But he should have, I believe. I mean,
We talk about that, and at the time it was a disappointment because with his abilities and with the accomplishments that he had, that would seem like the next logical step. But it didn't happen, and looking back on it, we're very thankful for the fact that we ended up in Canada.
sure.
Like, there were great opportunities that we had there, and opportunities for our family, and our lives would have been very different if we played in the NFL.
Sure. Yeah, you've had a good life in Canada.
We have.
That's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
You bet. Undefeated. Yeah.
Yes.
It's such a remarkable record, and it still stands 50 years later. It's incredible.
I don't think it can be broken because
Because?
university athletes in football don't stay at the same school for their entire career. So
True.
you've got to get a team or a quarterback coming in and staying at the same school, playing consecutive seasons, 3 at least, with 3 bowl games.
Sure.
I don't see how logistically the way college athletes set up their careers now, I don't see how logistically it can happen.
Good. I don't want it to be broken.
Yeah, well, that too, but.
Oh. Chuck, you look like you could still start for the University of Toledo Rockets. Get.
That's good. I'm glad I at least look like it.
So here I am, a 9, 10, 11-year-old kid with a transistor radio just plastered to my ear. It was the only way we could pick up the live call of the University of Toledo Rockets, the live call on local radio station WSPD. Back then, college football, at least at the MAC level, wasn't on television, but with that transistor radio plug plastered to my ear, it was pure magic to hear the call, the delivery of Chuck Ealey, who never lost a game. Absolutely incredible. I went my whole life wanting to meet this man, and I finally reached out to Chuck Ealey. I got his email address through the University of Toledo. I emailed him a cold call. Look, just give me the opportunity to meet you, sign my poster, I'll go away, I'll never bother you again. And I swear, in like 15 minutes, Chuck Ealey emailed me back and said, well, sure, meet me at the pavilion at the University of Toledo on game day at 11:30, and I'll see you there. And I got there way early. I'm running around, saying, hey, what a complete idiot I was, I'm sure. Hey, have you seen Chuck Ealey? You know where Chuck Ealey is? And no. And finally I came across a PR guy from the University of Toledo. He says, yeah, you want me to call him? I go, oh, no. He said he'd be here at 11:30. And the guy looked at me and said, so Chuck Ealey said he'd be here at 11:30? I said, yeah, he did. He goes, then he'll be here. And by God, at the stroke of the bell, there was his big smile, bigger than life, looking right down on me as if he knew me. He came to me, and I had written a story on Chuck Ealey, and he told me that, I told him I wrote a story on it. He says, I know, I read it. And he not only signed my poster, he brought me his book, The Stone Thrower, written by his daughter. This is a fascinating read. I understand she has a novel out now that's a bestseller in Canada. But this is a fascinating book. And of course, he signed it, and so did his daughter. Just so cool. It's so hard to fathom that Chuck Ealey is not in the College Football Hall of Fame. Really? Every year they come out with some dumbass, lame excuse about some provision in a rule book that some PR person wrote as to why Chuck Ealey can't be in the College Football Hall of Fame. NCAA, it's almost as if you don't even deserve to have Chuck Ealey in the Hall of Fame. But you still have to do the right thing and put him there. NFL, I'm a big NFL. I love football. College football, NFL, arena football, Canadian football. I don't care. I watch a lot of football. I love the NFL. And I'm not saying this has never happened, but never once have I heard a reference from an NFL commentator even talk or suggest or say the name Chuck Ealey. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I watch a lot of football and I've never heard it in all these decades. It's time to step up and start telling the Chuck Ealey story. You want to be a millionaire? Write the Chuck Ealey script. It's the most fascinating football sports story in American history, I believe. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I am the greatest. I am Chuck Ealey, the greatest football story in American history. Thanks, Chuck Ealey, for the dignity and class you have always carried yourself with and held up so high. As a native Toledoan, we are grateful.